Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to Autist Circled number 12, Charles Marion Russell. I am, as always, joined by Total Blackout Painting, whether he wants to be or not.
Hello. Thank you. This is going to be a good one today. We're talking about another. So although I'm from Idaho, I feel a great affinity for Montana, and it's a very beautiful place. And we're going to be talking about one of Montana's kind of famous sons today, and that is Charles Marion Russell. He is known as the cowboy poet. So first and foremost, we're going to jump into, first off, since we talked about art movements and timelines and stuff last week, we're going to talk about where he fits in here. So as the line goes, he fits in shortly, or right around excuse me, right towards the end of realism, late impressionism, and then he lived to start seeing the he lived to see Dada and Futurism and all that stuff in the very beginning of surrealism. There was quite a few art movements through his life, but he fell kind of close to the end of the realism period, and he's heavily influenced by realism and romanticism. And so we'll just read my little blurbs I have here. So the Smithsonian Journal of American Art says his vision of the frontier was both factual and elegiac, and a realism touched by yearning. So Russell's art style is widely considered to be frontier realism due to his realistic depictions of the West and the subjects. However, he infused his work with romanticized atmosphere and storytelling. He was more concerned with capturing the essence of the West, more realist style painter like Repin, but his subjects were often dramatic, giving the scenes a very romantic feeling. So, of course, Repin, I think, was our very first episode where we talked about the realists there. And he's, the realists were very concerned with conveying the gritty reality of the time, right? They were trying to show you what was happening, spread their world to other people, as opposed to the Baroque artists who were always trying to show a fantastical realm of some sort or relay some sort of allegory. This guy's just showing real life as it is to give you that meaning without, necessarily a whole lot of heavy symbolism and stuff. So a quote, one of my favorite quotes that I found from Russell, I felt was very romantic quote is that it stirs emotion. He said, the cow camps are gone. The open range is fenced. The world I knew is writing into history on rubber tires.
Oh, wow.
So I know, isn't that, it's really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. It like a little poem just compacted down into those few lines.
Right. There was no, there weren't roads and telephone lines when he got to Montana. There were trails, there were horse trails, and there were wagon trails. There weren't roads when he first got there. And by the time he had died, so we'll pop over to him. Charles Marion Kid Russell. So he was born in 1920, he died in 1926. So by the time he died, he lived to see interstate highways being built
He
across the country.
He saw aircraft.
Yes.
That's the other mind-blowing thing. I don't think we emphasize enough, where he'd seen aircraft go from the Wright Flyer, this rickety thing, to 1926. We're talking the early days of fighter aircraft. That's something I think I would have a hard time reconciling. And then with him being born in 1864, um, not only the domination of the railroad, and then the automobile, and then aircraft, and lighter than air aircraft. Just one hell of a time to be alive.
Yeah, yeah, for real. Like, I don't think that we like. There's no analog between what we've experienced in our lifetimes. The technological changes we've seen in our lifetimes are nowhere near what he went through in his lifetime.
Mm.
What he went through in his lifetime was like, it was such a remarkable paradigm shift in human society that he lived through. And he realized that, and he did a lot to try to capture that on canvas, and to capture that world that he grew up in and that he was nostalgic for, the world that he loved that drew him to the West. So when we talk about, let's talk about Kid Russell here, and then we'll move on to his paintings. So excuse me. So first off, Charles Marion Kidd, they called him Kid when he was out in the country. Russell, because he was out there so young, which we'll see. He was born at March 19th, 1864, to Charles Silas Russell, who was a fairly wealthy merchant. Not like, he wasn't mega rich, but they were middle class. And then Mary Elizabeth Russell. They lived in a comfortable middle class household in St. Louis, Missouri. And as a child, he, because of where they are in St. Louis, there were tons of people coming through there all the time. And his family had a ranch. And so there was a couple of guys that he really, he would love to hear the stories of the trackers and traders, to hear about the explorers, because it was the new age of exploration. And really, that's the spirit of the Old West, was that age of exploration.
And really, with him growing up in St. Louis and even Illinois, we're talking that was the edge of civilization back at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, that's where people left to go explore the West. That's where they left from, to go explore the West on the frontier. And there was still, lots of, so when he was young, so buffalo hunts, the Great Buffalo Hunt was from about 1870 to 70, I think 72 to 74. It was a really short period of time. But, it didn't take him that long to fucking decimate the buffaloes. So, so he got to see or experience the tales of the endless herds of buffalo, of the natives that lived in concert with the land and the buffalo and stuff like that. So he was very enamored by that. And as young as 8, he was carving animals from clay and whittling horses from wood. He was always incredibly talented. He's not just he wasn't just a painter. He was also, a sketch artist. He was also a sculptor. He did a lot of bronze works and stuff. We're not going to be talking about those today because it's hard to get good pictures of them. And I wanted to focus more on his painting, but he did a lot. So at 14, he enrolled at St. Louis County Day School, where he studied drawing for a little bit under a local artist named Edwin F. Bear. But he just didn't, he just didn't care about, it just didn't fit him. Like, the formal education just wasn't for him. So in 1879, at the age of 15, he left school with his parents' very reluctant consent and left the Judith Basin, or left for Montana with one of his family friends who had been telling him about all of the family friend who worked on the ranch. And this guy had been telling him all these tales. And so he left with him to go back to Montana, go out basically on the trail, become a cowboy. And they went to Montana, out to the Judith Basin. and ended up there. And then from 1880 to 1882, he lived with Jake Hoover, who was the frontiersman the aforementioned frontiersman was Jake Hoover. They lived near Utica, Montana on the Judith Basin in a log cabin. And he described these as the happiest years of his life. And I think it's because he was so young. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he's 16 and 17 at this time. He's still young. He hasn't had to become incredibly
kind of dealing with humanity in its most natural state, which is pretty terrible.
Yeah. He didn't need to be he was kind of carefree, you know, and he spent that time just sketching and drawing, and he started learning the languages from the local tribes out there. He spent time with the Blackfoot, with the Blood Indians from the Blackfoot tribe or Blackfoot Nation. He ended up spending time with them, learning their customs, just being really kind of saying almost going native in a way, right? Mm-hmm. He was one of the original, he was a frontiersman. You know, he was one of the guys that helped make it so that anybody else could go out there. So, and then after,
it's one of the, especially for the non-Americans in the audience, I think it's just such a unique experience that there's very few analogs to just how different that was. You know, if you compare to like the British colonial experience down in South Africa or anywhere in Africa, there's more conflicts, but in North America, it was kind of this. Yes, we had the Indian Wars, but there is also this kind of like with Manifest Destiny. Well, it's our land, so you just need to move along, and it's kind of a fascinating dichotomy with how it was viewed, because it's like no, you can join us, it's fine. We're not going to just go to war. Oh, well, you're on our land, so you want to fight about it? Okay, fine.
Right. And I think it's important to mention that not like every frontiersman that went out there was going out there guns ablazing, shooting Indians and buffalo every time they saw them. There was a lot of people out there who kind of lived, and especially because not all the Indian tribes were hostile to the settlers. Like many of them were happy to trade with the settlers and help make their life easy too. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and it's Chief Washakie, I cannot remember his tribe. Central Wyoming tribe, and they viewed the white settlers as, we can trade with these people, we can also wage war against our traditional enemies, and we have friends that will back us up. This is pretty neat.
Right.
So yeah,
it was a it wasn't like we look back on the history of the natives and what's happened, and you think of it what you want, but it wasn't all adversarial with these people. And he was certainly not one of the adversarial people. He, because he grew up knowing these people around and working with them and just being around them. Mm-hmm. So in the mid 1880s, like around around 1840. I mean, not 1840. I mean, 1884, 85. He started just doing like ranch handing based places, which was largely seasonal work, and they'd go from place to place. And in 1886, there was one of the worst, winters on record in Montana history. He was working as a night herder. And this was a place like, so there were routinely temperatures that it routinely hit -50 degrees, -50 Fahrenheit. I should say, not -50C. That'd be really cold. But and I'm not going to do that conversion. I'm sorry, European listeners.
We don't do French
do that
units on this stream.
We're talking about freedom units right here. So so yeah, there were tons of lost cattle, tons of lost. I mean, many farmers just lost whole herds. You know, or ranchers lost their entire herd. Like, it was a rough winter that wiped out a lot of families in that time. But so he was working as a night herder, and which, you know, they go, the night herder, oftentimes the night herder has to sing to the cows. So it was remarked that Kid Russell had a very nice singing voice, and that him and his brothers were very good at playing the banjo. So they had a lot. They were they were like the consummate cowboy is what I like to think about it. You know, he would be like, if you were going to go out camping, he would probably be the dude you'd want to have with you, because he's going to know how to keep you entertained. He's going to know how to handle everything and help out too. So, so anyhow, the owner of the herd was a kind of absentee, you know, and he sent the foreman a letter asking for a response, and in response they mailed back a painting that he had done, which will be the first one we talk about. We're not talking about it yet. And that was kind of the painting so once that guy got the painting, he took it and showed it around to everybody because it was so cool, which we'll see. And it was kind of what really gave him the moniker of the Cowboy Artist. So, in 1888, he spent more time with the Blood Indians. Just, you know, I don't know, doing the Daniel Boone thing, I guess, or however you want to, hanging out with the natives and learning their customs and everything. And by 1889, he returned to the Judith Basin, and it was already starting to be, settlers were already starting to fill in. So he was, it was like the beginning of the big change for his life. You know, like the wild frontier that he'd grown up on, because he, you know, he grew up here. You know, by the time he was by the time he's 32, he's been bouncing around Montana, he's been painting, he's been doing a lot of stuff. But in 1892, he moved to the Cascade in the Great Falls Basin area, or moved to Cascade community. And that's where he eventually met his wife, her name was Nancy Cooper. She was actually only 17 when they got together, but that's not.
Well, that's typical for that time.
Yeah, exactly. It's not crazy. Like, if you grew up watching Little House on the Prairie like I did, when Laura and Manly got together, there was a pretty significant friggin' age gap there. You know, like Manly was was it Almanzo? Was that his name? He was
Manly, but I can't.
Well, they called him Manly. She called him Manly, but he had another name. But he was significantly older than her because he worked with her father, and she was a kid. So, and I think canonically she was only like 16 when she got married. I think Laura Ingalls Wilder was pretty young when she actually did get it, because those Little House on the Prairie is based on real stories.
Thought that was just a fictionalized version of her life, not closer to reality. Yeah,
yes and no. It is a fictionalized version of her life, but they are kind of based in, like, it was written by someone contemporary to the times, basically. So maybe fictionalized versions of her life, but it is kind of stuff that really happened. So anyhow, so they got married, and then they ended up moving to Great Falls. And Nancy became his business manager and his agent, his publicist. She did everything for him. And he'd worked and done, he'd sold his art here and there. He'd sold it to local newspapers and local magazines and stuff like that. People would come and ask him about stuff. But Nancy really helped him realize like the full commercial, like how she helped him realize what a great artist he really was. And she helped to get him recognized nationally. Like he wouldn't be nationally recognized without her. And so I've got a quote from him here, another one that I thought was really nice. It says, "My wife has been an inspiration to me in my work. Without her, I would probably never have attempted to soar or reach any height further than to make a few pictures for my friends and old acquaintances. I still love and long for the Old West, but I would sacrifice it all for Mrs. Russell." And he said that in 1919, just a few years before he died.
Wow. Huh. Yeah.
Right?
That's pretty good. Pretty amazing way to put it.
So, like I said, in 1897, they moved to Great Falls. They rented a small house there that he worked out of. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, in 1899, the local W.T. Ridgely Printing Company published a book of 12 of his sketches. And then they began selling prints and Rhymes from a Roundup Camp, a Russell illustrated collection of cowboy poems by Russell's friend Wallace Coburn, was also being published by them also. So they were kind of a big deal in the local area, and it really started, it helped, again, spread him out further.
Wow. Yeah, it's stuff like that where you realize at how much things were different culturally back then. Just you've got these printing companies doing the books of sketches and cowboy poems and all that, but it's because Russell's wife pushed him to do that, and now we're fed this lie culturally where, oh well, she was oppressed. It's like, I think she realized that together they were better, and just showing what he could do is probably one of the greatest testaments to, I don't know, the American will that has been rotting on the vine ever since the West closed.
Yeah. It's depressing. I can say we could look at it as a depressing commentary on modern day, but really I want to focus on how kind of inspirational that is, and how they had a very strong relationship their whole life. And she lived for, almost 20 years after he died. So in 1900, they built a cabin in Great Falls. And in 1903, they built a log cabin studio. And then Russell, because he was a great lover of the West, and of course it's because it's relics of his childhood, so he starts collecting all this jewelry, his old weapons, all old Indian clothing. So basically another artist that's a collector. I guess that's three.
Yeah. Yeah.
Three, it is. Four. How many have we talked about? It's Jordan's, Rembrandt,
definitely
Russell.
I'm sure you could.
Bierstadt was too.
Yeah.
So
that's four at least.
Yeah. So, so this log cabin where they built is actually now it's called the Charles Marion Russell Museum. The CM Russell Museum. It's still in Great Falls, Montana. I mean, of course, they've expanded on it, but it was one of the first. It's not one of the first, but it's a Western Heritage Museum. talking about Western history, the Old West, not like Western kind, but like the Old West, talks about Old West history, the Wild West. It's not terribly far from me. It's actually less than a day's drive from me. And so I'm very, after going through all this, I'm very heavily considering making a drive up there next summer just to see it. So,
I mean, as one should.
Yeah. So in October of 1903, they actually traveled to St. Louis because they were meeting up with officials at the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, which was a big art exposition. And he was hoping to get some work in there. And so he submitted a bunch of watercolors and some other paintings to get for consideration. And then in New York, in December of that, they traveled to New York. So again, they're not like flying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking probably a couple days ride to the railroad head, and then go by rail.
Yeah, they're probably catching a coach to the train station, and then going from there. Just days travel. So while he's in, so that's over December. They stay there for 3 months in New York. I mean, because of course, if it's going to take you a month to get somewhere, you're not staying for a friggin' week and coming back.
No. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go grab a hotel for the night and I'll be back home tomorrow morning. No.
Right. Yeah. So they're in New York for 3 months. And so while they're there, he gets introduced to the owner of the Romans Bronze Work Foundry in Brooklyn. And he would go on, those guys would go on to cast most of his works in the future. And if you look at the museum pieces, that's one of the things they used to authenticate back to him is the metal, the bronze. They came from this Roman bronze works. One of his first pieces was called Smoking Up. It was a cowboy on. I should have taken a picture of it to put it in here, but I didn't. It was just a picture of a cowboy on a sculpture of a cowboy on a horse that's bucking up, and he's got his gun in the air. And it's a really neat little statue, but they, he was carving them in wax, and then they were doing them, cast them in bronze, so he would have a cast. And so they would cast several of them, and one of those actually ended up with Teddy Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that year, he also found out that a bunch of his stuff was, or that a few of his works were accepted into the Louisiana Purchase Expo. Oh, nice. Which is,
and that's kind of another, because that's where he came from, and that's his hometown.
Yeah, exactly. And so they go back home for a little bit. And then in 1905, they come back to New York, where he makes a whole bunch of other sculptures. Russell he did over 4,000 authenticated pieces during his lifetime. Wow. He did a couple dozen sculptures at the very least. He did quite a few. He was an incredibly prolific artist. So let's see. So from this point on, like he never lived outside of Montana. Once he moved to Montana, he never lived outside of it, and he never really wanted to leave it. He loved Montana. And having been there, I understand why. It's a beautiful place, and he must have had such an intimate familiarity with it. But then he was a really popular person in the region. And when he was just a really popular person in that area, of course, because he was so talented and well-liked and well-known. So
I just can't help but wonder his intimacy with the landscape may have colored the way he chose to actually paint those locations, the palettes he picked and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, say Nancy managed the business side of things, which allowed him to focus on his work. So she was the one reaching out to the museums. She was the one reaching out to the magazines. She was the one doing all that stuff, which, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's super helpful. The song that's playing right now in the background on my stream is called Sam Bass. It was one of Russell's favorite songs. Because, of course, being a cowboy, they didn't have records. You know, the songs that they loved were the songs they could sing or the songs they could listen to other people sing around the campfire. So later in life, we'll see his subject matter started to change from a true capturing of what is of the realism of the West to a more romanticized version of what the West was. And in 1926, Kid Russell passed away in Great Falls as a local legend and a hero. The day that he died, not the day that he died, but the day of his funeral, they let the school out, and all the kids and everybody lined the streets to watch. He was pulled to his casket was pulled to the cemetery in a glass stagecoach, and he was well venerated and much loved. And you can tell that there's so much information about this guy, of course, because it's not that long ago. Mm-hmm. This is in living memory for some people, right? Yeah. I mean, not many people, but still some people. So it wasn't that long ago, and it wasn't hard for people to get firsthand accounts of his life. And then also he was a very gregarious person in life, and so he had no problem telling stories about himself or his life growing up. So there's lots of information out there about Charlie Russell. A great artist, a great man. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the first painting we're going to talk about, which is the aforementioned Waiting for a Chinook. So this is the painting that was sent back to the rancher as a report. And it depicts, it was painted in 1886. We'll just get the numbers out of the way. 1886, it's 13 by 20, so it's regular size. Watercolor and gouache on paper. Painted when he was 22 years old, and it's currently at the C.M. Russell Museum. The caption reads, "Waiting for a Chinook, the last of the 5,000. So Chinooks were a warm wind, a warm Pacific wind. So it's saying we're waiting for a Chinook, and then this is the last of the 5,000 head of cattle right here. So it's basically this picture saying we're waiting for it to warm up because this is the last cow. This is the last of your head of cattle. This is the last of your herd. Which I think is like, if you're asking like, hey, how's it going out there? And you get this picture back.
With the wolves circling the lone cow of 5,000.
They're coyotes.
Oh,
they're coyotes. Okay. Yeah, because they're scavengers.
Yep.
Right? If they were wolves, they would be attacking it. They're waiting for it to die. They're circling this thing, waiting for it to die. Yeah. So Russell talked a lot about coyotes, and of course because coyotes were kind of a nuisance to the ranchers and the farmers in the West and the cowboys in the West, definitely. Let's say Russell was working as a night herder, as I already said, for the OH Ranch near the Judith Basin. Mm-hmm. The ranch's foreman sent word to the absentee owner, Stuart Coors, in Helena. But instead of writing a letter, he sent this painting back as a report. So this is quoted as the painting that made Charlie an artist. Which I typed, that's a typo in there. Fix that in the presentation. The painting that made Charlie an artist. So yeah, this was it was one of the ones that came out and said that came out like he painted this while they were like, they weren't like out in the open range. They had a ranch house and shit, you know.
Mhm.
It's like, but he painted this in the middle of the winter,
Hmm.
you know, and it's not like it's subject matter where they're models. You know, he
Yeah, yeah.
painted this all from memory and
That's
even put his own signature on there.
I like the buffalo skull there with his name.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
an
he's actually
awesome detail.
it's a trademark.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
that
awesome.
his the buffalo skull is it's trademarked as part of his signature.
Huh. Well, that'll be.
So, with that being said, so this is depicting the realism, right?
Mhm.
And it's watercolor, so it's not like if it was an oil painting, you know, you can capture a lot of realism in oil painting, but
Yeah.
watercolors and gouache are always going to look like watercolor and gouache, and it's
Mhm.
what they're meant to be. And just a masterful capturing of the scene, and it displays it so well. Like the gauntness of the steer is so apparent. You can tell its horns are twisted, which is kind of
That's
a
an
sign of not being
awesome
healthy.
but it's
Yeah,
also an awesome detail that
it
many could
is. It
overlook.
is. Yeah. And it's just the hungry coyotes just circling.
Mm.
You know, they're just waiting. It's a very detailed, like it tells a very powerful story, especially if you're a rancher asking, "Hey, what's going on with my herd?"
Yeah. Well, I hate to tell you this, bud, but
uh, yeah,
and I think the other thing that would get lost to people who haven't been out there is that just kind of snowy background way up in, like, and you can see some of the ridge detail where it's like, oh yeah, he just did that. It's like, no, it does look like that at times when you're out there. Like, yeah,
yeah.
there's a mountain
Oh,
ridge
it
back
does.
there somewhere, but hell if I know where.
Oh, yeah. No, he did. So they call Montana they're coyotes. Um, they call Montana the Big Sky State because it does look like that. You know,
Hmm.
the sky opens up when you're out there. It's really cool. And you know, I don't know how the horizons are back east. Um, but as a guy who grew up in the mountains around here, I know how they are around here, and his paintings capture it incredibly well.
I will say, yeah, growing up on the East Coast and in the Midwest, and then spending a lot of time in the Mountain West. Yeah, back here, it is definitely much more closed in feeling for the most part. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like you're more looking up than out at the horizon.
right. And
But
Montana has a big basin on it, right?
yeah,
And so, um, all right. So we're gonna move to the next painting, which is it's called "Smoke of a 45."
oh,
It's
that's such a awesome painting.
it is. It's painted in 1908. It's 24 by 36 oil on canvas, and it's currently at the Ammon Carter Museum of American Art in Fort Worth. Um, I need to remember if I ever go down to. I have family in Fort Worth. I should go. I should make an excuse to visit them so I can go see these museums. Anyhow,
Like,
so
oh,
the description from the Russell Museum
wait, gee,
is
why are you down here? Because I want to see C.M. Russell paintings.
right. Because I love you guys and I miss you. Now fuck off so I can go see this museum. uh, no, but anyhow, so yeah, the description from the Russell Museum of the painting is it's a gunfight and there are no clear good guys or bad guys, but the props would indicate that bad whiskey and poker have something to do with the ruckus, which is a pretty astute observation because there's a bottle of whiskey
Hmm.
on the ground here, and then of course cards everywhere.
Yep.
And I don't know how big. Oh, okay. So
And
this is a fairly good sized painting.
okay, this is just a random detail that I absolutely love: the can of crushed tomatoes.
Yeah.
I
There's just
Well,
yeah.
the reason is because I just remember reading Colonel Dodge's memoirs from his time out there, and it's like, cans of tomatoes were coveted by some of the cowboys up north.
That's funny. That
Yeah.
is a really funny. I didn't notice that. That makes sense, you know, and Charlie would have known that.
Mm-hmm.
Russell would have known that. He would have known. So that's a very interesting or good detail to be captured there. Um, I mean, if you really wanted to break it down, I will say in 100 years or 200 years, when they look at it, they're going to start looking into the like, oh, it's got the $1,000 reward and licensed gambling, and this guy must have been.
He must have been the guy that the
Yeah.
reward was for. It's like, no, it
Right.
could have just been some dude that got in a bar fight with the guy coming out the door.
Right. But it is such I think it highlights a couple of his strengths, and his strength in capturing action.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these horses are so active. Like, there's so much motion in this painting. And like this horse, the horse in the middle here in the front, like that's just such an amazingly well done, you know, just look on the horse's face, which of course he would know.
Yeah.
He was very intimately acquainted with he spent a lot of his time with horses. And so his favorite horse, I think, or the horse that he learned to ride on, was an old Civil War horse.
Oh, wow.
On his folks' ranch. And you know, he's been riding horses since he was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I really another thing I want to point out is the sky, the horizon. It's a very Montana skyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it is open. It's so open, and it has those, like, he captures the sky beautifully. And it seems kind of like a dull painting at first when you look at it. It's like, oh, he didn't use a very bright palette, but that's because life didn't have a very bright palette back then. Right? Like, horses were dirty. Or I mean, horses were brown and the ground was dirty.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, that's just the way it is out there. Yeah.
And it was like there wasn't paved streets and sidewalks.
And the other thing I think is just really cool is the windows on the palace. And you kind of like see the sunrise in that, and it matches the sun coming off of the left-hand side of the painting. It's just really cool.
It's a really good realistic detail. And like get caught up on the subject matter of how cool the subject matter is, but like the realism of his paintings is really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he captures his light sources, he matches them just like a Baroque master. You know, he's intimate with the light, similar to the you know, following in that use of light all the way back from the Renaissance period. You know, it's just such a cool painting, and I wanted to show it because it is a really powerful display of his ability to capture not just realism and motion, but an actual likely scene from the West.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like this, you can think of this as kind of romanticized, but it's really more realistic. Yeah, you know, like shit like this did happen.
Well, and,
you know,
and something else to kind of note, just like the physical closeness of the subjects in the shootout is much more realistic than the guns at dawn in the center street and that you're half a block away. It's like, no, this was all up close, very intimate, very personal, and this captures that. It captures everything I've read about what actually took place.
Yeah, it brings you into the action and puts you right there. So, and this is his earlier age when he's still trying to capture and show the West as it is or was, you know. So we'll move on to the next one, which is kind of the beginning of a more reflective period for him as he was getting a little bit older. So this one's called In the Wake of the Buffalo Hunters. It was painted in 1911.
Mm-hmm.
It's 25 inches by 25 by 35, oil on canvas. It's currently in a private collection, but it is often displayed at the Sid Richardson Museum in Fort Worth, which is another American Heritage Museum. So the Fort Worth has two of them. They got the Ammon Carter Museum and they have the Sid Richardson Museum.
Okay.
Probably have a few others too. Huh. So, like I was saying previously, the Great Buffalo Hunts happened from 1872 to 1874, decades before this was painted. Mm-hmm. But it was while Russell was growing up. You know, he was not. It was prior to him. It was prior to him to the winter that defined him as an artist. It was really right after he had like this happened right after he went to Montana, you know, so it was something that it was the buffalo hunts and the buff fields of buffalo was something in his lifetime and in more importantly, within the lifetime living memory of people that he was associated with, you know, like the Hoover guy who he hung out with, who taught him or told him so much about the West.
You know, and just thinking back to Beardstadt, like you see the figures off kind of that they're gesturing at off in the distance. That's just such a nice little detail.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what this depicts is the, so during the buffalo hunts previously, and this shows the, Blackfoot tribe, or not Blackfoot tribe. What was it? The
blood band of the Blackfeet, I thought.
It was something like, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. And he was, because he had spent time with them, he was meticulous about the details on this. So there's no doubt about who it is. Because, and he knew these peoples, not these people, but he knew this tribe and he knew people from this tribe. And he always felt a deep sadness for not only he always felt a very deep sadness for the way that the natives were treated. Yeah. You know, that the way the American government treated the Native Americans. And he, because he felt like they got a raw deal, you know. So when they had these buffalo hunts, what they would do is have like the hunters would go out front, and then behind them would be the children, the elderly, and the women. And they were the ones. So the guys would kill the buffalo, and then these guys would come along behind them and process them. And they would use these the sticks. They would pile those up with fur and meat and everything, and then that's what they would use to. That's how they would haul them back to the camp, or haul it with them wherever they were going.
Yeah, they were famous for the travois system.
Yeah. That's what it is, the travois. That's what it was called. Yeah, so they would, they would pile up the stuff on there and just keep going. So the hunters would go kill and would kill and move on, and then these people would come on and gather it and take care of it. And then at the end of the day, they would all settle down. And so that's what this is depicting, is the people. So the woman up front, they have children on their back. You know, the two women at the front, they have children on their back. You see the buffalo. I would assume that's the hunt going on in the far distance, with the dust getting kicked up back here. They have dogs with them, which I think is an interesting touch.
Yeah, and I have to wonder, you know, because of his intimate knowledge of the blood band of the Blackfeet. Like the beadwork on some of this was this directly their style of beadwork.
Yeah, it was. It was it's accurate to what the tribe is. Of course, because they all had different. It's kind of like
yeah, it's like
yeah,
Crips and Bloods, you know.
yeah. I was going to say like Scottish tartans, but potato. And again, you see his signature on it, and it's got the buffalo skull on it, which is another. It's on all of his paintings. So again, with the big open sky, and you're not right up in the people's faces. You're sitting back at a little bit. You're part of the scene, but you're still observing it at a respectful distance, and you're observing this. You're observing this beautiful culture, or this culture that he so admired. You're observing it with reverence, you know, and they're framed very nicely by that beautiful Montana sky, that big open horizon. Yeah, it's just it was like one of his love letters to the West, which most of his paintings were all love letters to the West, but this was specifically like, just, hey, you know, look at these people, look at how noble they are and what they've done. And so with that being said, he's moving on. He's getting a little older in life. We'll jump to the next painting, which shows, this is more showing the shift from realism to a more romantic or romanticized image. And this one is called When the Land Belonged to God, which is just such a amazing title for a painting. I think, you know,
the landscape is just amazing. This is like me waking up on a camping trip and little bleary-eyed looking out, exactly what this would look like. It's just such a gorgeous landscape.
Oh yeah, it's that open Montana sky again. So this one is pretty big. It's 40 by 60. It's currently at the Gilcrease Museum in Tulsa. And this was painted when he was 50. So again, like, 1914, by the time 1914 rolled around, you know, there was paved roads in a lot of places. They're not like the automobile was taking over, but cars were coming around, you know, people had flown. There was radios everywhere, you know, there was electricity, you know, there was a lot of stuff that in 1919 that he could not have conceived of in 1870. And so this painting, you know, as he's getting older in life, older and more nostalgic, it really, because it has that low sky. There's a low horizon with a really open sky, with that beautiful Montana big open sky. So yeah, by 1914, Montana had transformed from, I'll read my blurb here, a wild frontier to an industrialized area with railroads and telephone poles. He painted this as like an elegiac and nostalgic tribute to a time before modernity had touched the West. And that's reflected in the title too, When the Land Belonged to God. You know, he's really saying that, look at how beautiful this is, you know, this is gone because the land belongs to man now. But this is what it looked like when it belonged to God, when no man had touched this. And yeah, you can see a lot of movement in this painting too. You know, they're kicking up dust, and also that's the other thing too, is that it's not just kicking up dust here, but
off in the
distance. It's all the way back. Yeah. Which just emphasizes how huge these herds were. Like,
and herds that he would have probably seen in their twilight years.
He might have. He might have seen some. I
Not
think
not
by
to
the
the
time,
great herds, but some of the larger herds that were still
yeah,
operative and then still being culled, unfortunately.
by this time, most of the herds, actually, by the time he'd moved out to Montana, most of the herds had been wiped out, and the larger herds were only down in Texas.
Oh, okay. I guess
Yeah,
my timeline's backwards on that then.
yeah. It's it, but regardless, so this shows again. There's coyotes in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you think the coyotes are just we're just gonna hunt. They're not hunting shit. They're scavengers. They're waiting for someone to die,
Mm-hmm.
and they were always around, which he talked about, and which is how I know the other ones were coyotes. I mean, it's how all artists, most of the artists know that they're coyotes, or the art historians know they're coyotes, because coyotes were pervasive in the Old West, Montana, everywhere.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, hell, coyotes are still pervasive here in Boise.
They're an
We have
invasive
freaking coyotes.
species here in the East.
They are.
Yeah.
They're a nuisance, dude. And like I've seen anywhere where we have access to like canals that have access to the rivers that go out back up to the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen pictures of people with coyotes in their backyards from there around there. And I'm like, that sucks. That's terrifying. I don't want to let my dogs or my cats outside if that's how it is.
Yep.
That's fortunately nowhere near me. But coyotes are freaking everywhere.
Oh yeah.
They're very adaptive species. But this we're running up late. So I'm gonna run. Okay, so this image also appears in a lot of textbooks. It was in one of my textbooks growing up. Let's say, and this painting is considered as one of the great canonical works and stands alongside Among the Sierra Nevada from Beardstadt that we talked about in episode 11, along with a few others.
Yep.
Okay, to wrap it up for the last 3 minutes here, we're going to go to the last one, which is the Salute of the Robe Trade in 1920. This is painted in 1920, 30 by 48, oil on canvas. This is currently at the Gilcrease Museum. This was painted when he was 56, only 6 years before he died. And this is a depiction of Fort Union on the Montana-North Dakota border. And Fort Union was established for the buffalo fur trade. It was trade with the natives, but most of the primary thing was they traded for furs.
Right.
And that was...
That's something, to distinguish. Up at this time, fort didn't always mean a military outpost. Usually it was 50% that and 50% trade outposts.
Yeah. Most of these were trade out. A lot of them were trade outposts. And they may have been established by the military, so they call them fort or whatever. But this was a trade outpost. And so this, the fur trade was in the 1830s, or the height of the fur trade for the natives was around the 1830s and 40s. Mm-hmm. And they called them robes, but it was really buffalo hides. Mm-hmm. And they would trade those for... Oh, now my OBS dropped out for a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Reconnection successful. Okay. I don't know what it did. If my OBS died.
It Tylenol'd out.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow. We'll finish up here. So it shows the natives writing. It doesn't specify who it is, but the horse gear matches the Blackfeet tribe of the Assiniboine or Assiniboine from around that time period. And they called it a salute because they're firing their guns into the air, which is something they often did to salute things. Of course, because they're not firing in an urban environment where they have to worry about the bullets coming down. I doubt very few people died from bullets. It was a big open area with not a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And there's that old tradition, and I guess it still kind of exists. I've seen it in some survival manuals, like firing 3 shots in quick succession when you're in distress and someone's nearby.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's what this was
No,
necessarily.
no, but my point is
Obviously,
firing
but yeah.
off guns at the time where it's like it's utilitarian. It carries a long way.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, they still do it a lot in the Middle East too. Um,
Wedding ceremonies. Anyway.
yeah. Yeah. So this is a painting done in later in life, kind of to show another tribute to the West that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like this way of the West was 100 years in the past by almost 100 years in the past by the time he painted this. It felt so distant to him, but so near to his heart that he had to paint this just as a salute. And again, it features the same beautiful big Montana big sky.
Mm-hmm.
And right, and I think this is it the Columbia or the Missouri River? It's the Missouri River. But it's a beautiful painting, and it really it makes you long for, at least me, it makes me long for this time in a way. When things were kind of simpler, when things were more,
it was about survival.
I don't
know. It wasn't this facade that we have to put on every day. It was, you go out, you survive, you make more than enough to get through the winter, kind of a thing. So at least you hope you do, and then you start the cycle the next year. Yeah,
that's right.
It's a hard life. There's no denying it, but it's also very poetic life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I believe so. But with that said, we've hit our time. We're up against our time, so we'll have to cut it off here. Thank you for coming out, Bleach. Thank you guys. Everybody was in the chat. Paul Campbell, Ardent, Mel, user has been banned.
LGM.
I love you, man. LGM. And Fab Daddy dropped by too.
Nice.
So thank you to everybody who came out. We will not be back next week. We're going to be taking a break. Bleach has some stuff to do. The week after that, we will be back with another one of Montana's favorite sons, FJ Haynes, the official photographer of Yellowstone.
Oh,
and
I'm glad we had that discussion about getting into photography, because this is going to be fun.
It's going to be a good one. So that's in 2 weeks, folks. Don't miss it. Thank y'all for coming out. We love you, and we will see you next time.
Shadowley?
Okay. There we go.